I don't believe that we should ever have a good money again before we take the thing out of the hands of government.
Welcome back, everyone. We're Simply Bitcoin. We break down the news, the daily fail, meme review, software releases, hardware releases, and the websites by plebs. Joining us today, fellow Bitcoiner and Bitcoin Core contributor, Abubakar. We are diving into the numbers. Let's do it, people.
Number time! Brought to you by Bitcoin 2022. It's going to be the largest Bitcoin conference ever, hosted in sunny Miami Beach, Florida. The event starts, ladies and gentlemen, in less than a month. Get your tickets quickly. Speaker list includes Nayib Bukele, Michael Saylor, Saifedean, Adam Back, Jack Mallers, Senator Lummis, Jordan Peterson. It's going to be an awesome celebration, networking event, conference, whatever you want to call it. And you can take advantage of the link down below for 10% off your tickets to Bitcoin 2022.
At the time of this recording, the block height is 726,891. The Bitcoin price, 38,625. Chain rewrite days, 727. Total public Lightning capacity continuing to climb, 3,506.19. Moscow time, 2589. Blocks to the halvening, 113,109. And the Samurai Whirlpool unspent capacity, Samurai Whirlpool, which is a coin join and or collaborative spend service. The unspent capacity of that pool is 4,383.42 BTC, Nico. The numbers.
Yeah, bro, keep saying that pool, because Brandon, you know, luckily with this latest executive order, it wasn't as bad. But, you know, I suspect that mixing services in the future, you know, because privacy is dangerous, I guess, to the state, I guess, you know, so yeah, keep saying that. But anyways, guys, I told you I was going to go through this question yesterday. We didn't have time for it. So we're going to cover it today. And we have a Bitcoin Core contributor as well to talk about this. So it's a very interesting question. This is from Harry. I'm going to pop it up in post-production. And let me go to the gallery view so you can see all our beautiful faces. All right, so Harry says, hey, great show. Question. Do you guys think they will only allow approved wallets? What impact will this have, and can it be enforced? Thanks. Harry, that is an incredible question. And we've been covering this. Well, essentially what's happening lately is Bitcoin isn't really a problem per se right now, because it's sitting roughly at $1 trillion. It's $1 trillion asset. Now, when Bitcoin, but you see, you know, the rhetoric from politicians, the rhetoric from the central bankers, oh, it's only used for criminal activity. You see the rhetoric from Elizabeth Warren, right? She's trying to pass a bill, you know, to identify private custody of Bitcoin and shitcoin. So that is, you know, that is the normal way that you should custody Bitcoin, right? Is self-custody. So yes, they're definitely trying to build up a narrative around self-hosting, around all this stuff. And now, what does this have to do with approved wallets? Well, look, at the end of the day, the App Store, the Google Play Store, those are, you know, those are easy targets for regulators to say, hey, listen, you can't have any wallet on the Google App Store or the, you know, the Apple Store that isn't a KYC wallet. That could happen in the future. Now, here's the thing, though, right? Bitcoin at the end of the day is open source, meaning anyone could just download the stuff. It's like, look, let me give you an analogy. Have they ever been able to stop people downloading pirated movies? No. Why? Because you could just download the data. It's the same with a wallet. So, but that doesn't mean that on these closed garden systems like Apple, like Google, you know, they could put pressure to those companies to say, listen, don't allow any type of wallets unless that wallet has some type of KYC attached to it, right? That could happen in the future, right? I'll even add to that. I have a feeling that they're going to try to push for that in the future. But will this stop just, you know, being able to download a simple Bitcoin wallet from the internet directly from their computer? No, it won't. But what it will do is all the NPCs, right, will happily, put their KYC, they'll put their stuff in there just because of the mere convenience of it. Of course, the hardcore Bitcoiners that are totally against that, you'll still be downloading, Electrum from source, right? So again, it's definitely going to be a hell of a fight. I have been saying this for a while now. Self-custody is the next fight. You already have two political movements, one from Arizona. You had Senator Wendy Rogers that's trying to make self-custody and Bitcoin legal tender legal in Arizona, specifically just in the state. And on a national level in the United States, you have Congressman Warren Davidson, who is specifically trying to pass a bill to protect self-custody because that is what they will attack next, right? And it's absolutely crazy if you think about it. Essentially, they're trying to protect your right as a human being to store your wealth without any interference from the government. That is nuts, right? Because at the end of the day, it's not about your protection. It's not about consumer protection. This is all about power. So, Harry, I hope that answers your question. Phil, what are your thoughts? And then we'll pass it on to Abu Bakar.
I just wanted to add, on the other side of that argument, there's Elizabeth Warren that is petitioning for the fact that these wallets are quote-unquote private wallets and they present a danger, right? So you gotta, what's happening is that this narrative, as you said, right, the self-hosted wallets, the language about them is changing to make them seem nefarious. Make no mistake, there is absolutely nothing wrong with wanting and having privacy, okay? There is nothing wrong with that. Don't let somebody change the idea. Don't let the corporate-owned media change the idea that all of a sudden, because you desire privacy, that you're some kind of a criminal, okay? Because you see, the people that are the people that unfortunately are able to remove this privacy, they demand privacy for themselves.
Yes.
Right? So it's good for it, right? It's good for us to not have privacy, but it's good for them to have privacy for certain things because they're deemed that way. But anyways, I just want to go back to those central points of failure. Absolutely, they are going to use Google and Apple to do that. But you see, they can't really do this with the majority of the Linux distributions, number one. So you know what? Maybe they're just going to help force more people go to open source operating systems. Because at the end
no, but yeah. I mean, specifically more so on mobile devices, right?
Yeah.
And Android is a lot more open than Apple. For example, you can't download an app on your iPhone that's not approved by the App Store unless you jailbreak your iPhone. Android's a little bit more flexible in that, but on the computing side, like on actual Microsoft, like Windows and on Mac OS, you can download whatever you want, right?
Oh, of course.
So it's really putting pressure mostly on iPhone users and mostly on I guess they'll maybe Android or Google releases a more closed operating system, but that's not really how anyways, I'm sorry, Phil. Go ahead.
No worries. No worries. No, you bring up a good point, right? The desktops won't go through that, but I know that a lot of people have been talking about installing Graphene OS and using that. So look, again, with Graphene OS, to my knowledge, you have much more flexibility than is provided with Google or Apple. So look, they're definitely going to try. Make no mistake. They're going to try to do this. They are 100%. The fight is on for quote-unquote private self-hosted wallets. Okay? But as we've said, Bitcoin is pseudonymous. Okay? And all they're trying to do is trick us with incorrect wording. That's all it is.
Absolutely. Abu Bakar, what are your thoughts on this as a dev, dude? I'm sure you've been seeing the writings on the wall as well, right? I think this is an inevitable clash. I think, they've been trying to do this since the 90s, dude. The so-called crypto wars in the United States, which is the United States war against encryption, right? So you're right to have private messages like through Signal, Proton Mail. I know that Proton Mail went from we don't reveal our user's IP address, and they were forced to eventually reveal those IP addresses. So it's a hell of a fight, right? It's the government wants to see anything because they think they can control everything. And then it's, the individual's privacy, which obviously has been flushed down the toilet as of late. So Abu Bakar, what are your thoughts on this, man? Where do you think this is going?
Yeah, I mean, like you mentioned, this isn't a new fight. It's been around for years now, for decades, really. And at the core of it, when we're talking about mobile wallets specifically, or the mobile ecosystem, we have, roughly iOS and Android really at the forefront of adoption in terms of the operating systems that people use. And the problem with that, like you mentioned, is if you do try to censor Bitcoin, the only ways you could do that is if you have central points like that. And the problem is, the more we try to push this adoption when it comes to Bitcoin, like you said, the next fight is trying to ensure that individuals are protected from privacy angle, because at the end of the day, if we're pushing out Bitcoin and getting a lot of users to have their mobile wallets, the issue now becomes what type of mobile wallets are they using? Because they're most likely going to be using KYC wallets from the context of, individuals and government trying to push that, okay, let's say we agree with this whole Bitcoin thing, but so long as you're using some KYC version where we could see every single transaction you're moving, and we could potentially, censor what you're on about, then it's all good, which isn't exactly the proliferation we're talking about. I mean, the whole point of Bitcoin is freedom money, right? So at the end of the day, we have to make sure that we're giving individuals tools that they could use to actually protect this self-sovereignty, so to speak. And the way to do it is obviously open source software, since we can't control that. Already when it comes to the PC or laptop space, when we're talking about macOS, like Nico was talking about, you could download any software really. All you have to do is go to either GitHub or whatever website is hosted. And a lot of these software, which, unlike traditional software, has ways for you to verify the actual code itself. So you use, signature verification using PGP. This is all, a bit technical for average users. But again, with a lot of education and simplifying some of these tools, you could do quite a great job in terms of allowing individuals to do this. So again, the issue is, as an open source programmer, like you mentioned, Nico, is we're in a position really to be building out some of these tools and simplifying UX, because at the end of the day, privacy, not a lot of people care about privacy at the end of the day, and it's really about convenience. So if we can get, some of those privacy tools or some of these wallets that are private, which are just basically open source wallets that don't KYC, then if we move it towards a context where, we're following the Bitcoin design guide, which is a great project to simplify UX, and get it to a stage where a lot of this is simplified for the user, it would be a convincing argument for them to take the extra step of, like you said, getting Graphene OS, which is a hell of a thing to do for average users, but as well as, just using a laptop wallet at the end of the day. If you want to really store a large amount of your Bitcoin, you can use those KYC ones on your mobile for small amounts. They could go and watch basically a small amount of you playing with your Bitcoin. But yeah, it's a continued fight. And, as a programmer, we'll just, the priority for us is to build tools that are easy to use and that maintain a lot of those privacy angles that we're talking about. So yeah, it's a fight that we'll continue to see. We'll have to engage regulators and see, how we could come to at least some common ground, because we know they're not going to stop and we are not going to stop. So bring on the fight, I guess.
Absolutely. And I think you made a beautiful point, right? Is this aspect of convenience, right? And the fact is that the legacy system is not a system of convenience. It's also not. It's a system of exclusion, right? The point or the example I always point out is El Salvador. It took less than 30 days for more Bitcoin wallets to be downloaded on people's phones than there was bank accounts. And the banking system was there for over 40 years. And it took less than 30 days for more Bitcoin users to join, right? Because it's more convenient. It's exactly what you said, right? So, these regulators, in order to maintain power, and thinking they're doing this for a noble cause, to protect money laundering, to protect terrorism, dude, they might, exclude huge vast of the population once again, so that's pretty sad. But anyways, Phil, it's time for the Daily Fail.
Brought to you by Amber app. Check them out, amber.app. It's a Bitcoin stacking app by actual Bitcoiners. Low fees, fair spreads, smart automation. The link is down below.
Amber, the smart way to stack sats.
Got two fails today, unrelated, but still, Let's take a look. Tagged by Mr. Robot in this one. Here we go. He retweeted a Clown World tweet. What is it? Coin Icarus, make it stop. I can't make it stop. I'm just a pleb. All right, so here we go. Inside paper. What did they say? Just in, the White House is briefing TikTok stars about the war in Ukraine. On Thursday afternoon, 30 top TikTok stars gathered on a Zoom call to receive key information about the war unfolding in Ukraine. Washington Post reported Friday. Okay.
They're really pushing this. They're really pushing this hard, right?
This is really frightening, though. The White House has no fucking business doing that, and these TikTok influencers should have more brains.
Well, of course they have business.
I mean,
Phil, they're trying to push a war, bro.
This is just the most psychotic, embarrassing crap. And I'm just completely, I'm disappointed. Like that's all there is to it. And I get it, right? They're influencers. They want to grow their numbers. They want to, they want to do whatever it is that they want to do to, be seen and all that stuff. I get it. But at the same time, this is disingenuous, weird, Black Mirror, 1984, Logan's Run, all this weird sci-fi psyop shit. Okay? No. Okay, I'm sorry. Just no.
I'm going to take a slightly different angle to this. It's obvious that this is what they would do because, the internet essentially killed their ability to craft the narrative, right? Do you guys remember the war on terror in the 2000s, right? One of the reasons we invaded Iraq was because the mainstream media at the time, they're no longer the mainstream media, essentially sold a narrative to the public, right? And the public was convinced. Listen, people, the normal population doesn't like going to war. They need to be sold on that war. And so essentially, their legacy ways of communicating with the youth, with communicating with people, is dead now. They can't use the mainstream media like the way that they were used to. So what do? They go to what actually people are watching nowadays. So they go directly to influencers and they say, hey, this is, don't pay attention to the Mexican southern border. Pay attention to the border thousands of miles away in Ukraine, which has always been being invaded by Russia historically. Pay attention to that. That's a catastrophe, so that Raytheon and all these defense companies could just, swell up, make their pockets bigger. Have no doubt they're trying to sell a war to the American public. And this is just the new 21st century way of doing it. But these people have been doing this for decades. Anyways, Abu Bakar, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, it's always interesting when it comes to politics because, like you said, it's all about narrative crafting at the end of the day, whether you're on the left or the right, for you guys, I guess, in America. And the thing is, obviously, you guys are having a lot of issues, like you mentioned, when it comes to things like inflation, gas prices, all that kind of crazy stuff. So it does make sense, obviously, to distract the public, so to speak. And I don't know whether their idea is to kind of make Joe a wartime president or something. Really, that's up to them. But, like I said, the narrative building is their job. Ours is to build great products, and liberate people through Bitcoin. But again, at the end of the day, especially with TikTok, when it comes to the whole Russia-Ukraine thing, we're not getting into the historical details because that'll take a lot of time and the reasons why things are happening the way they are. The truth is, a lot of misinformation and a lot of information is disseminated through TikTok, again, because of the short format of the app itself. And a lot of the information is nicely distilled for whether you're a millennial or whoever you are. And the truth is, the algorithm gets you hooked. Even, as a dev myself, going on TikTok, I tend not to, because I know how good the algorithm is when it comes to hooking you up on content that you're used to. So again, if you get a lot of the influencers pushing the same narrative, at the end of the day, what you're doing is gaming the algorithm. So you have a higher chance of ensuring that everybody gets fed the same, narrative that you're pushing. So again, it's just them pushing narratives. That's what governments do at the end of the day. It's not something we can change, but best thing we could do is, again, through outlets like yourselves and other individuals that are either on the ground in Ukraine or in these hotspots that things are actually happening, to actually take it upon themselves to actually disseminate the actual information that's going on that is independent outside of, these closed door meetings of what is it, 30 TikTokers? I mean, what has the world gone to, honestly? So yeah, really, that's how I see it, and we just have to push out good content to people. So yeah,
100%. It's narrative trench warfare. It's about individuals trying to get the truth out versus the establishment that's trying to paint a picture. But anyways, Phil, before we run out of time, what is the next fail, my friend?
No, running out of time? What are you talking about? Okay, so here's a link that is not behind a paywall. Here we go, right? All of a sudden today, we're seeing this all over the place. Bitcoin ATMs illegal in the UK. Regulator says, oh my gosh, no, not all the ATMs in the UK, no. All right, here we go. Data from Coin ATM Radar shows 80, not 800, not 8,000, not 80,000, not 800,000, 80 Bitcoin ATMs or tellers operate in the UK, none of which has been approved to offer crypto ATM services. So this is what this giant news blitz is about. Okay, 80 Bitcoin ATMs. Nick Sharp, Deputy Director of the Economic Crime at Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs, told the BBC that the authority is constantly adapting to new technology to ensure they keep pace with how criminals and evaders look to conceal their assets. Okay, so what's really interesting about this story is not the fact that it's 80 Bitcoin ATMs that are essentially being told to, to cease operations. That's not really it, okay? The real piece behind this story is, what was the precedence for this? Why did this happen? So, let's take a look over here. The crypto ATMs offering crypto asset exchanges services in the UK must be registered with us and comply with UK money laundering regulations, MLR. The upper tribunal recently ruled against Plus, a firm offering crypto ATM services. Okay, so that's what set the precedence for this article, right? Now, let's go on and let's go take a look at some of the reasons why an ATM operator like Plus wouldn't get approved, because they had applied for approval and they were under temporary approval during this process in the last year, and then it got pulled. Anyways, so take a look. I'm just highlighting specifically Section B. The risk that the applicant's business may be used for money laundering or terrorist financing. So now we're going to fast forward over here, and here we go. This is December 14th, 2021, okay? So they're worried about these crypto ATMs facilitating criminals. Why don't you clean up your own fucking backyard? UK bank fined.
That's because they use it themselves, bro.
Exactly. Exactly. So here we go. UK bank fined for laundering trash bags full of cash. That's right. People were showing up to the bank with bags full of cash, and the banks couldn't figure out, maybe we should check into these people because our AML KYC requirements tell us to do so. But no, that's not what's going to happen. Anyways, the state-backed bank pleaded guilty in October to 3 criminal charges of not monitoring customer accounts adequately between 2012 and 2016. Announcing the fine on Monday, the judge said it would have been nearly $400 million, but a deduction was made for the bank's guilty plea. Thank you for playing nice. You get a deduction on that. I wonder if the average person gets deductions like that. I don't think so. Anyways, NatWest is Britain's biggest business bank and is majority owned by taxpayers after a $45 billion plus state bailout during the financial crisis. Of course, right? These players that facilitate the money laundering, these people, these businesses that own the rails to launder money. They pay to play all the time, and they were bailed out by people who cannot afford it. We cannot afford it. Anyways, the bank is largely already provisioned for the fine, NatWest said, and its shares fell only 0.7%, less than the overall FTSE 100, which was 0.8% lower on the day on Monday. So you see, the banks, they pay to play, they own the rails, they're letting you know that they're monitoring money laundering and they're monitoring criminal activity. But really what they're doing is that they guard their moat, and they want to make sure that all of this illegal activity goes through them, because they are the gatekeepers. But it's all under the guise of helping all of us who are the frickin' serfs.
Yep. Yep, dude. No, spot on, dude. Look, it's under the guise of money laundering, anti-terrorism. This all really started in 2000, 2001, you know, the Patriot Act, right? And I saw that right below that B paragraph. It said the Terrorism Act of 2000, and even in the UK, obviously there's coordination among these countries. And that is an amazing excuse. Now, here's the thing. Here's the inconvenient truth for them. We went through the receipts. We had a KYC AML expert on the show. Their KYC and AML system is ineffective at stopping crime. In fact, it only stops 0.01% of the crime. So they spend more money and they force businesses to spend more money on compliance than they actually get seizing so-called illegal funds. And why is that? Because the criminals know if they check those certain boxes, all of a sudden that money is considered clean. And the biggest money launderers are the banks themselves. But the reason that they focus on Bitcoin and crypto is because they can't manipulate it to their advantage. The average Joe now has the same seat at the table than the elites do. And that drives them absolutely bonkers. So you're going to keep hearing this rhetoric, right? Where it's like, oh, the privacy wallets are bad and whatever. But when it's a convenient cause for them, like donating to the Ukraine, oh, no, that's fine. Donating to truckers? Oh, you're a terrorist, right? So it's anything the state deems as a threat to themselves, a threat to their power, that's an issue. If it's not a threat to their power, oh yeah, I love it. It helps everybody. It's all inclusive. This is a game of power. Make no mistake. That's what Bitcoin does. It takes power away from the nation state and it gives it back to individuals. And the nation state is going to fight ferociously to, you know, keep their power, keep their nest, keep their stronghold, right? So when you ever hear money laundering or AML or terrorism, whatever, just keep this in mind. They're not doing it to protect the public. They're doing it to protect their jobs. And we've shown you the receipts. We've done investigations on this. We've done many episodes on this, right? Specifically on this subject. So I feel very confident making that statement. So anyways, Abu Bakar, what are your thoughts on all this?
Yeah, you said quite a lot. And at the end of the day, like you mentioned, this all goes down to, the state governments as a whole, and some of these private banks that actually facilitate these money laundering activities, which is super, super ironic. And just to latch on or tag on to that as well, if we look at even countries that are trying to ban Bitcoin, this is the excuse they use as well, which is that Bitcoin is used for terror financing. Even in Nigeria, that's kind of what the narrative still is. And obviously our job, whether as workers of capital or some of the stakeholders in the space, is we recognize all of this FUD going on. We know that a lot of this is, reactionary, so to speak. They don't understand what Bitcoin is, or they either fear Bitcoin and some of these other things that, related to seeing no benefit with regards to allowing it to proliferate. So obviously our job is to reach out to them and go, hey guys, relax. This is not exactly what Bitcoin is. These are the benefits of actually allowing Bitcoin, even at a state level, for these state governments, to try and bring them up to speed with the realities at hand when it comes to technological advancements and some of the economic opportunities that they themselves can actually benefit from as well. So, there's that angle. But at the same time, this is still going to be one of those fights that we'll keep fighting. Like Nico said, a lot of this hammering down started back in 2000 with the whole, war on terror. And this kind of snowballed into a large amount of, different facets when it comes to average life for individuals. So whether you're trying to just buy a burger, it depends, if you're trying to use a superior monetary network like Bitcoin, automatically you're terror financing, which doesn't make any sense. And the truth of it is, again, outside of the fact that they can't control Bitcoin, another thing is, when you have a superior monetary network that would completely wipe out the existing system they have with SWIFT and corresponding banking, it makes a lot of sense, obviously, for us on the other side to go, yeah, we expect a lot of this behavior and whining, but at the end of the day, they either, allow this to integrate with them and them get carried along with the innovation, or, they stay in the sidelines and it still happens nonetheless. So at the end of the day, we're going to have a lot more interplay between these two systems, and a lot more people will move towards Bitcoin again because it's freedom money. It preserves their sovereignty, and as we keep going down into more and more state censorship and some of these closed ecosystems that allow money flow, see a lot of people try to opt out and go into Bitcoin. It's just, a no-brainer at the end of the day. So yeah, you're going to continue seeing a lot of this, and our hope is that people see the true freedom money still lies with Bitcoin. If you want to protect your sovereignty, your freedom, your privacy, you go the Bitcoin route. But, that's just what we have to do. So yeah, that's kind of the view I have with regards to all of this.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Couldn't have said it better myself. But anyways, Phil, it's time for the Daily Meme Review. Brought to you by Citadel 21. It's the best Bitcoin cultural zine. You'll see stories, articles, comics by actual Bitcoiners. This is pure pleb signal. Every volume has different artwork by a Bitcoiner. And they're scarce. There's only 1,000 copies made per volume. Get your physical print of Volume 10 of Citadel 21 today. All right, everybody, the first meme is brought to us by fellow plebe Blue Onyx 1. Let's check it out. And this Bugs Bunny. And what's that guy's name? Roger Duck?
Daffy Duck.
Daffy Duck.
Daffy.
Right. Quack, quack, quack. Okay, he doesn't quack. He just has like a weird voice.
Yeah.
It's fourth season. Long season.
Good look, right? Right? Because we always talk about the super cycle, not super cycle.
Yeah, dude. They don't call the Bitcoin roller coaster for no reason. Anyways, moving on. Meme by Altcoin Daily, fellow YouTuber, but focuses mostly on the shitcoins. Hey, to each their own. Many Bitcoin holders think like this. Friend, when Bitcoin hits 100K, you should buy a new house or car. Me, best I could do is buy more Bitcoin. That's a very good meme. Shout out Altcoin Daily. All right, moving on to the next one. Sometimes when I'm doing work on a roof, I leave a little note for the next guy. In 30 years, someone is going to be like, holy shit. The date is March 9th, 2022. Bitcoin price is 41,998. Block height 720 blah, you guys get it. Block reward 6.25 Bitcoin. So dude, that's incredible. And
that's fun, again, right?
So like and I want to stick to this a little bit. Guys, look. If you the day to day in Bitcoin is brutal on your emotions, right? The roller coaster is crazy. But when you zoom out, it blows your mind how, where this thing goes, right? And again, Bitcoin is a deflationary asset. It's designed to go up forever as long as they keep printing that caca fiat, right? So I'm sure that in a decade, or perhaps maybe 2 decades, someone's going to see this and they will literally faint, or they'll do a double take. They'll go, what? So it's never too late, to buy Bitcoin. Anyways, moving on to the next one by RD_BTC, fellow meme lord. And then we told them Russia caused the inflation. It's true. It's true. It's such a good one. Yeah. Okay, this goes back to what you were talking about during the fail. And these are the NPC, right, that we always talk about. You will hate Russians now. Yes, master. NPC, legacy media. I think he's been watching Simply Bitcoin. He calls them legacy media. Shout out honk. All right, so MSNBC, CNN, CBS, ABC, NBC, and the World Economic Forum, Puppet Master before. It's true, dude. We went from what? The virus, like everyone have you guys noticed the virus? Putin cleared the virus. Now it's Russia, right? It's bonkers. It's just like a hive mind. Anyways, moving on. Now this was really interesting, right? So this is Jack, the CEO, the founder of Twitter. He left to focus on Bitcoin. Thank God, he's been killing it so far. And this RIP state-controlled money. And here is Mitch Klee. Hey, Radialian, you're changing world order. Your note is the next rising power. And this was, and if you look at the reserve currency of that time, it directly correlated with the most powerful country of that time. So in this chart, it says Dutch, British, USA, and then the China rising. Now here's the thing. This is what Jack believes. This is how our intro starts. We must separate money from state, or else the world is going to forever be enslaved. And I think that Ray Dalio has this wrong. I think it's going to look more like this. Bitcoin, right? So this is why it's such a powerful meme, right? Dutch, British, USA, Bitcoin, right? No, yeah. And again, the Chinese currency is the central bank digital currency, which they coincidentally, they showed off to Westerners during the Beijing Winter Olympic Games, right? Which Twitter promoted, I might add, which we covered live when they did that on that episode. So yeah, dude. And this is the fight for our time, right? And we always say this. I have this on my Twitter bio, Bitcoin or slavery. And when I mean slavery, it's literally state money. That is slave money. That's money that comes with strings. That's money that comes with the ability for the state to manipulate its populace for their own advantage, for their own control. Or you have Bitcoin that no one controls, right? Those are the two options in front of you. And for that, I'm going to give it some pasta sauce. And it is some Classico, some bread, right? Still hasn't opened. It's one of those things that pop when you open them. It's really addicting, that pop. Should I open it?
No, because once you open it, the pop is gone.
Nice.
Now you just turned it into garbage.
It does smell really good.
Literally just turned it into garbage.
All right, Phil, what would you give those memes?
Okay. Now I want some pasta sauce. All right. I am going... those are great memes, by the way. I love the last one. Very good call on that. Okay, for all these memes, I'm going to give it, and this is a memer that I miss very much, and I'd love for him to come back to Twitter. Used to make all kinds of awesome stuff for us. This is a Sweet Toshi original, okay? And he made one of multiple plebs, and this is Wolfnode, otherwise known as Lord Hodl. Made one of Lord Hodl.
I think he made one of me, too.
Most likely did.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I do miss Sweet Toshi. Anyways, Abubakar, what would you give those memes?
Yeah, I'm sort of a minimalist, so I don't have quite a lot on my desk, but I'm giving it a USB-C to USB adapter.
Oh.
I use it a lot, so it's kind of treasured for me. So a lot of the memes we saw were awesome. So
it's true proper Bitcoiner.
It's so useful. That thing is so useful. I have one too, bro. It's so useful. You need it. You need it. It's like USB-C is better, but everyone's just by the US than regular USB. Anyways, guys, we want to know if you agree with our scores or disagree. Let us know down in the comment section. Of course, make sure to subscribe to us on alternative video platforms like rumble.com and, of course, bitcointv.com, and join our Telegram group. Link us some dank Bitcoin memes to review. It's a Bitcoin meme review, and we need memes to review because it's a Bitcoin meme review. But anyways, Phil, it's time for the daily news. Brought to you by CryptoCloaks.com. They make the best 3D printed Bitcoin merch. Like the 3D printed Bitcoin grenade opens up, you put your favorite hardware wallet in there, like an open dime, really cool stuff. And guess what, guys? You can get this in any custom color your heart desires. You want to change the white? You could change it. You want to change the blue? You could change it. You want to change the handle? You could change it on CryptoCloaks.com. And you can take advantage of the link down below for 5% off anything on the store, CryptoCloaks.com. All right, guys. So we've been covering the clown world for so long. So we're gonna change it up. Yesterday we had a friend of the show, and he was from Senegal in Africa, and we asked him a question: what was the adoption like in Senegal? So shout out to Fode. Today we have Abubakar, and he is from Nigeria. So we're gonna ask him same question, right? Why is this important? Because again, you see the articles, you know, and Bitcoin Magazine does a great job at these articles, but you never actually get to talk to people from those countries and to ask them what their experience is with Bitcoin on the ground. And for some of you guys that don't know, Nigeria is one of the top African countries in terms of Bitcoin adoption. Why? Their country suffers from some pretty bad inflation. It actually looks like the youth population in Nigeria is choosing to opt out completely. So we're going to talk to Abubakar about that. But first, let me pull up some stuff so you guys know a little bit more, right? So this is an article or thing that we showed yesterday. They get some data from Chain Analysis to kind of understand this graph, the scales from 0 to 1. 1 means a lot of crypto Bitcoin adoption. 0 means not so much. Nigeria's right here has a 0.26. Just for reference, that means that there is more adoption than the United States, right? And significantly more than Europe. Anyways, just to kind of show you guys where Nigeria is on a map, in case you were wondering, right? Senegal is here, which we covered yesterday, which is where photos from. Nigeria is here, right? So, you know, it's a country in, I would say, the center of Africa, not really in the west, right? Center of Africa. Interesting stuff. Anyways, I'm going to pull up this article. This is what I was talking about, the inflation. The inflation rate in, this is funny how it says, it dropped 0.03%. But anyways, the inflation rate in Nigeria is 15.6%. That's pretty crazy. I suspect in the US it's going to follow very quickly. It's going to follow due. So what did the government do as a response to such a large portion of their population fleeing into crypto? And the reason this is important is because this is exactly what the powers in the West are going to do. They're going to follow suit. They launched the e-Naira. From what I've read, right, you know, this legacy media propaganda arm is trying to spin it where it's like, yeah, it might be successful, but whatever. Supposedly, it's been a total fucking clusterfuck and catastrophe. Why? Because they're not going to be able to match the incentives of Bitcoin. It's not going to be able to be a unflationary your deflationary currency. It's not going to have the power of unconfiscatability. It's not going to have all that, right? So just to kind of give you guys a preference before I start asking Abubakar some questions. So Abubakar, Nigeria is, right? So many people use Bitcoin and I'm sure Tether as well, right? Because they see some stability around that. So why don't you talk a little bit about your experiences on the ground in Nigeria, the adoption of Bitcoin and Tether and all that good stuff?
Yeah, so, you know, like a lot of other countries, you know, Nigeria has quite a lot of crypto adoption and specifically Bitcoin too. And, you know, we see a lot of the stats. We lead with Bitcoin when it comes to volumes, and a lot of that happens P2P. And again, I bring that up because specifically when we're talking about all of these things, you know, that have to do with the government clamping down on it from a regulatory perspective, it makes a lot of sense for people to go, hey, you know what? Instead of going this route, might as well just do these OTC trades and use P2P exchange because, again, there's no need for KYC. I get my money instantly and go ahead. So, you know, similar to other African countries too, a lot of this P2P is happening, you know, outside of exchanges. You know, ironically, a lot of it is happening in WhatsApp groups, Telegram as well. But I think WhatsApp ranks high like a lot of other African countries. And the thing is, you know, with regards to adoption, it's still not at a stage where, you know, we as Bitcoiners really want it to be, from the perspective of, again, Bitcoin presents the best sort of opportunity for individuals to gain back their financial freedom and self-sovereignty ultimately. And the thing with that is the best, that's the use case, or should I say a value proposition that is best, you know, is best taken advantage of by individuals in developing nations really, or in places like Nigeria specifically. So it makes sense for us to be ensuring that these individuals are not only educated about Bitcoin, but to show them how to actually practically use Bitcoin to change their lives, really, because it is a life-changing thing for a lot of individuals. And, you know, the interplay between Bitcoin and Tether and a lot of these other stablecoins has been quite interesting from an adoption perspective. And even to a lesser extent, shitcoins, because again, you know, what usually happens is a lot of these shitcoins come in, they bag on Bitcoin, they say, you know, Bitcoin is dinosaur money, and then they do like 50 airdrops and then bring on people, technically just paying people to be on the network, which is garbage long term at the end of the day. And there's a moral angle to it, which we have to be cognizant of, because again, if we're trying to ensure that Africa leapfrogs, which it has to do to be at the forefront again, because it has so much talent and a lot of opportunities from the youthful population it has, especially with Nigeria, and coincidentally in Kaduna as well. It's one of the states in Nigeria that has a huge youthful population, which is why I spend a lot of my time doing on the ground teaching when it comes to Bitcoin specifically and getting developers excited to work on Bitcoin. So with regards to like a ballpark figure when it comes to actual adoption, and when I say adoption, I mean use case adoption outside of speculation, which is the majority of what's happening in Nigeria and a lot of African countries, it's not really at a stage, you know, from like a numbers perspective where we want it to be, which is why, again, that's part of the main thing we're looking to at least curb when it comes to education, really, and the work we do on the ground. So again, a lot of this is people are still not at a stage where they understand the true value of Bitcoin isn't locked, so to speak, towards the what do you call the speculative side of things. It's really a monetary network that could provide incredible value for them, whether you're talking about remittance, whether you're talking about even, trade between, local trade and global trade. Because again, this is a monetary network that allows you to actually transact both locally, globally, instantly, free, and cheaply, especially with the Lightning Network, which supercharges this entire experience. So again, we're going to see a lot more individuals moving towards the use cases perspective of outside of speculation. So a great thing is, with wallets integrating Lightning Network, specifically wallets like BitNob, which, Recursive Capital is invested in, a lot of this innovation, we're going to see a lot more of it from the perspective of wallets integrating, LN, and allowing users to communicate globally, financially speaking. And we're going to see a lot more promise when it comes to adoption of the actual use case that Bitcoin has, which is, in my opinion, way greater outside of speculation. And again, just to close with this, when it comes to storing their wealth, we're technically we're technically not in a bear market if you look at the chart for, wider than a year, in all honesty. But again, a lot of fears and FUD and FOMO, it seems like we're in a bear market. And again, people now decide to flock to stable coins specifically for that reason. And the truth is, obviously, a lot of these individuals don't have the, the opportunity to be losing money, from that perspective when it comes to holding Bitcoin. I mean, us as Bitcoiners can weather the storm, but average individuals that store their money in this sort of asset do not have that time, patience to actually keep it there. Hence why they flock to some of these stable coins. But I think an interesting thing that we'll have to be exploring is the possibility of having stable coins on the Lightning Network, for example. I mean, if we have that, then not only are you providing a more robust user experience for them, but allowing them to stay within this, within this better monetary network that they could really leverage to really give their life, to really take back their financial sovereignty, their freedom, and use a superior network at the end of the day. I mean, if you can use this network to hold and maintain the value of your money, and then that could actually be used to now say, okay, my long-term storage can be in Bitcoin, and then that now grows your actual wealth. I mean, that's a win-win-win in all sides. So again, it's one of those things where over time, we're going to see a lot more adoption towards actual use cases that individuals will highly benefit from. And again, just to plug in, which is, work we're doing with Gala Africa, which is to actually grow this developer base of African developers. Because again, if we want to have a resilient network, we need to decentralize the developer base, because we don't want to have a situation where we have all the developers in one location. That could be prone to natural disasters, an entire flood, wipe out the entire developers we have. So it's really interesting, and it's something I'm really, really passionate about when it comes to increasing that developer base, propagating this whole Bitcoin message, and doing a lot more education. So yeah, we're going to start the first cohort of the Gala program in April. We're really excited about it. We can't wait to throw these developers out into the wild to do all kinds of great stuff in the ecosystem. So yeah, that's the end of the rant, I suppose.
Dude, so first of all, it's fascinating that you and Fode had the same answer in terms of the peer-to-peer, right? The same answer. It's fascinating that you and Fode had the same answer in terms of the potential of the Lightning Network, right? So it's so interesting. And we have time for really one last question is, so, and the reason I want to ask this question, I want to put importance on it is, and the same answer, by the way, in terms of adoption as well. You guys say, it's happening. The good news, though, is that we all got into Bitcoin initially through speculation. And then we stayed for the revolution because we realized the freedom that Bitcoin gives, right? So that's a good thing, because that's how Bitcoin attracts you, right? Now, this final question, I want to ask it because I suspect this is how it's going to play out in the West, right? And I also want everyone to pay attention to the fact that when governments crack down on Bitcoin, what they do is that they push it underground. And because it's peer-to-peer, people just transact directly with each other without going through a third party. People go through a third party because it's convenient, right? But not out of necessity, right? It's very important to mention that. Now, Fode, what was the reaction from the government as it relates to Bitcoin, as it relates to the success of Bitcoin, because it's starting to become a larger and larger portion of the population? And the reason I'm asking you that is I suspect that governments in the West, right, as their currencies become weaker and weaker and follow the path of the Naira, which is a currency of Nigeria, which is, so I'm kind of trying to give you guys a perspective of the potential game theory that could play out in Western countries, specifically the United States and Europe. What was their reaction to it? How did they try to kill it? Unsuccessfully, I might add. I think there's a viral video that came out of this Nigerian senator, which is like, Bitcoin is killing our currency.
Cryptocurrency has become a worldwide transaction, of which you cannot even identify who owns what, and it's been protected by an app or software blockchain. The technology is so strong that I don't see how, even if we regulate it, I don't know the kind of regulation that we can do. Because another very important thing that we should know is that Bitcoin has made our currency almost useless or valueless.
Abu Bakar, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, like I said, you know, in while we were speaking earlier, is at the end of the day, a lot of the current state of things when it comes to regulation and how the state government or even the regulators from SEC all the way to, you know, the CBN itself, is they're just putting their heads in the sand, really, and hiding from the inevitable, which is the proliferation of Bitcoin. At the end of the day, like I said, given the unique properties it has, it is an inevitable revolution that's going to take place from, not from like a physical, you know, arming ourselves up to actually take over the state, but from peaceful revolution perspective, which is that individuals will just opt out of the current systems and actually use Bitcoin long term. So the thing is, a lot of it is reactionary, which is understandable. Like I said, a lot of this is like we're at the tail end of a lot of the FOMO and FUD we saw in 2017, which was when this really got quite real from a regulation perspective, where they're like, oh, you know, this Bitcoin thing might actually be a lot bigger than we think. So, you know, let's come down on it. And that really happened around the globe. And the thing is, you know, like I said, it's one of those things where you just have to reach out to them and try and educate them to ensure that at the end of the day, you don't have regulation that's going to stop this huge proliferation that we're looking forward to, which is mostly going to affect average individuals. I mean, we could keep doing the work of teaching them how to, you know, PGP, verify applications and get wallets and all that kind of stuff in self-custody. But at the end of the day, you still need individuals to have an easy on-ramp into the system itself, which requires them to use some of the mainstream tools that might be KYC. So yes, we'll definitely need a lot more crypto-friendly regulation, or really Bitcoin-friendly regulation, which is what I'm more concerned about. So the thing is, that's going to hopefully improve as, you know, like I said, individuals like myself and some of the other stakeholders in the space move towards engaging with the regulators to help at least push that whole, you know, the fears that they have with regards to Bitcoin being a terror financing mechanism and all of that. And then again, with the e-Naira, you know, like you said, a lot of this will be replicated across, I think, you know, nations around the world, specifically as like a quick rebranding to kind of keep up, you know, to keep the populace, how would I say, to keep the confidence of the populace in the state, really. Because at the end of the day, the e-Naira, like you mentioned, was a huge flop for a variety of reasons, you know, one being the utility there isn't some like 100x benefit of individuals hopping onto this new e-Naira, because at the end of the day, it's still the Naira. You know, the inflation is not magically whisked away from this rebranding itself. So individual Nigerians go, hey, this is still the Naira. I mean, you could call it e-Naira, Q-Naira, Z-Naira. At the end of the day, it's still the same Naira that has these issues. So again, has no effect
hold on, because
whatsoever.
I think you hit gold right there, right? Yeah. And this is something that, you know, I've been trying to hammer home for a while now on the show. Governments are never going to be able to replace the incentives provided by Bitcoin. Bitcoin is deflationary. So with these central bank digital currencies, they misunderstand. They think it's like, oh, because it's digital. Oh, because this is what this is what these youngsters want. But they completely miss out on the fact it's just something that they are not going to be able to give themselves, which is we like deflationary money, and we like censorship resistant money, and we like sovereign money, which are things that they will never be able to give us, because they would defeat the purpose. Why would they give us something that hurts them? right? So yeah, man. But we really appreciate you coming on, Abubakar. Guys, we tried to, we had 2 Africans back to back. We had Senegal yesterday, we had Nigeria today, to try to give you some truth about what the actual adoption is in some countries in Africa, because I think you get spun up a lot on Twitter and on this and whatever. And the reality is the same, because they gave the same answer, is the adoption is just starting. It's there. There's a lot of speculation, but in terms of a lot of people like us, right, that, are denominating in Bitcoin, we're living on Bitcoin, it's not quite there yet. And I suspect this is how it is all over the world. I would say, dude, if you had to put a limit to how much they're actual Bitcoiners, I would say it's about 100,000. Maybe 100 or 150,000 people worldwide, right? So anyways, we'll keep fighting Abubakar as the years go on, and as NGU technology does its thing, which creates the incentive for more and more people to wake up from the fiat matrix, specifically of their country, the fiat matrix of their country. But anyways, Phil, there was an open source software release today. Why don't you tell everybody about it?
Software releases brought to you by CipherSafe. Check them out. CipherSafe.io, the best place to store your Bitcoin seed. Store it in the Cipher wheel or the all-new Cipher grid. Comes complete with punch tool, and they both come with a tamper-resistant wire. All right, we've got Galoy Money version 0.1.21 that was released. It's down below in the show notes. Guys, don't forget to check us out on our audio-only platforms, Apple Podcast, Spotify, and Anchor.
Awesome. Thank you, Phil. All right, guys, that was a show. Before we go, I'm going to give a very special shout out to our awesome guests. You can give him a follow on Twitter at IHate1999. I'm going to ask him why that is after the show. And his name is Abubakar. He is a Bitcoin Core developer. Really badass. And I also want to give a very special shout out to our awesome sponsor, Represent. You can go visit their store, rephard.com. Phil and I wear the hoodies. We coincidentally wear the same one today. We didn't plan this, whatever. It just kind of, no comment. Anyways, you can take advantage of the link down below for anything on the RepHard store, rephard.com. 10% off with the Simply Bitcoin promo. It's down in the link description. Guys, that was our show. If you enjoyed the show, you know what to do. Smash that like button. And of course, you want to continue hearing the Bitcoin news from the plebe perspective and the catastrophic fails from the central bankers, shitcoiners, all the above. Definitely consider subscribing to Simply Bitcoin, and we will see you Monday, guys, for a brand new episode.
You heard it here. Worldwide adoption is only beginning. We are very early.